Hi, I'm Ole from Subphotic.com, and in this video I'm going to show you my workflow from nothing to full-blown release-ready beat. It's a foolproof system because I've used it hundreds of times with great results, and just dig in and watch as I go. I will show you the step-by-step process that I use. And this is part one of a two-part series, and in this part I'm going to show you what I do exactly on the MPC, and in part two I will show you how I do it in my DAW, which is Logic Pro X. Now for the workflow. Are you ready? Step 1. Record some samples. I start in the main menu. From there I press the menu button, which is a physical button located underneath the LCD screen. This takes me to the menu as the name suggests, and here I will hit the on-screen sampler button. Relevant elements inside the sampler includes the threshold fader, the timer, the rec button, and the monitor button. First, I toggle on the monitor. That way I can hear the incoming signal. Next, I adjust the threshold so that it's loud enough to hear the beginning of a sample, but not so loud that it peaks and distorts. Then I arm the rec button. Finally, I play back the sound from a source. In this case, it's some old vinyl recordings from YouTube. The sampler starts sampling and I hit the rec button again to stop. After recording, if I don't like it, I hit discard, and if I want to keep it, I hit keep. Step 2. Make those chops. So when I'm ready and done with all my recording of samples, I go in and I'll chop up the sounds. When all samples are done, in this case 5 different ones, it's time to chop them up so I can make some magic. Again, I hit the hardware main button, but this time I select the sample edit button. Inside here, you can see the different samples as waveforms. I run through all the samples and normalize them to get roughly the same volume, hitting the process button on the bottom right corner and then scrolling down and hit the normalize button. Next, I hit the trim button on the bottom left to select chop. Then I can use the 16 pads to chop up the samples manually. When done chopping a sample, it's time to convert. I hold down the shift button and hit the convert button on the bottom of the screen in the middle. I choose the non-destructive slice type and hit do it. Then I rinse and repeat until all samples are chopped and ready to go. Now, reason why I hit the non-destructive button is that later on, when I have my sample bank, I can always go back and forth with the samples, making them bigger or smaller, so that I'm more free to edit the samples at a later point. Step number 3, make a loop. This is the fun part. This is where I get to experiment with all the different sounds that I have in my different banks. And what I do is I search for dope combinations and I try as hard as I can not to use the same sequence as the original sample. I like to use different chops from here and there and making something completely different. I play with the pitch, I play with making it go backwards and what have you. In essence, I start by playing around with the pads, searching for some dope combinations, rhythm structures, and sounds. It often helps to adjust the pitch of the sample bank. To do this, hit menu, select program edit from the menu, and inside select the knob labeled semi. This is for adjusting all chops in the bank in step note increments. Use the large jog wheel to scroll through notes. When I got something nice, a sequence of chops that gives me some feelings, something I can nod to, I can tap tempo with the tap tempo button while playing manually. This way, the tempo will be set and the recording of the sequence becomes much easier. I always adjust the BPM so that it's in whole round numbers. In this case, it ended with 141 point something, and I rounded it off to 140 BPM, which is in essence 70 BPM. Next, I hold down overdub button and hit play so it starts recording from the beginning after a 1 bar countdown. I play my sequence as good as I can, and then I press the grid symbol on the left of the screen to go to the sequencer window. There, I adjust the MIDI notes I've recorded to fit the grid. After recording the first loop, I adjust both pitch and BPM to taste. Step number 4. drums. Having a sweet loop laid down, it's time to add some drums that fit with the rhythm and the structure of the loop. Usually, I dive into one of my go-to drum sample folders, such as the free download you can get in the description. 20 kicks, 20 snares, and so on to get a quick start with your beat making. However, for this beat, I found some clean drum sounds in a song that I sampled, and thus I used those, because the stars aligned in such a way that made them fit the loop perfectly. How lucky! I start with the snare and make sure that it hits on the right place, which is seldom directly on grid, a bit offsetted. I hit the T/C button on the top of the screen to call up the time correct menu. I turn time correct off. This way I can place notes wherever I want without them being snapped to the grid. I visit the sequencer again, making sure both kicks and snares are placed loosely on the grid. I use a ghost kick here as well to increase the head nod ability. I nudge this note to fit the rhythm and reduce its velocity as well. When the drum loop is done and I'm satisfied, I hit track edit, which is the pencil icon on the far right in the track lane. Here, I hit explode to give each individual drum sound its own track. This makes editing and mixing much easier down the line. Step number 5, expanding the loop. When the main loop and the drums are done, it's time to make some additions and variations to the beat. It's still a 2-bar loop, but this is about to change. I select other sample banks and experiment on which sounds can be mashed together with the existing loop. This calls for some tweaking, especially the pitch. As I progress, I double the length of the loop by going to sequence edit, which is the pencil icon on the far right in the sequence lane. I make sure that there are some variations in the end of the 4-bar loop. Step number 6, bass. When I feel that the beat is finished, I add bass. Typically, I use the built-in bassline plugin on the MPC, which has surprisingly good sounding bass sounds. I start with the simple sine and sometimes even end up using it, as was the case here. A tip for finding the right key when laying down a bass line is to play it with a high pitch. When you've found the correct pitch, just take it down some octaves, making it deep and earth-shattering. Another rule of thumb is to consider the frequency of the bass. A sub-bass is seldom enough for an impactful bass. You need something to happen in the 200 to 500 Hz region, otherwise your bass will be left unheard by 99% of your listeners who checks out your music using their smartphone speakers. To solve this, I usually copy the bass and alter the sound of the copy, so I have one sub-bass, usually a sine or a square wave, and a bass, which often is a combination of several waveforms. Here, in this example, I forgot all about this principle and I use only the simple sine, which in essence is a sub. And in the next video with Logic Pro, I'll show you how to deal with this issue, making the frequency of the bass higher even though it's not. Step number 7, save and export. I don't save before I'm done. I like to live dangerously. I delete everything that I know won't cut it. I prefer a quick and clean kill of everything that doesn't serve a purpose. Hit the folder icon on the top of the screen and select Save As. Select the save location, which is typically locally on the MPC. Type a suitable name and the BPM, which is a handy piece of info later. Next up, hit the Export button. In the menu that pops up, select Explode Tracks since you want to have stems. Change the bit depth to 24 and sample rate to 48 kHz. Depending on the tail of the loop, I usually increase the audio tail some seconds. Hit Export and select your memory card. Save your tracked out loop here. Finally, I save once more and shut down the MPC. That's it. That was part 1 of my beat making workflow. And the MPC has a million functions that I didn't show you today, but at a later point, I will dive deeper into the MPC and show you some other cool tricks and techniques that I use when I work with the MPC. And remember, if you're not an MPC user, all these principles still apply to Reason, Ableton, Maschine from Native Instruments, and so on and so forth. I've used both Reason and Ableton myself, including GarageBand on the iPad. You basically get the same results. It's just a process that is a bit different. The MPC has a more tactile feel and a more real feel, in my opinion, than soft synths and software, so to speak. The question is, which workflow techniques that I've presented in this video did you like the most? Did you like how I chopped up the samples, the drum layering, or how I made the bass in this video? Hit me in the comments and let's discuss. And before you go, don't forget to download my free gift. The link is in the description. It's a sample pack containing 20 kicks, 20 snares, 20 hi-hats, and some other goodies that will supercharge your beat making. And if you're still watching, my gratitude to you is high. I just want to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!